you? Are there any no-go topics? Okay.
No, you can ask whatever you want.
Okay.
Let's see. I wonder if people can hear us.
Mm-hmm.
So we are live. People don't see the camera yet, so we can do it here. Sometimes it deactivates, so I need to activate it again. But there we are.
Mm-hmm.
Technology. There's always some issue. But it's working now.
Perfect.
And we got to turn the lights on as well. We're completely in the dark. We got carried away and we forgot to set up in the pre-chat.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, we're setting up the sound and we're setting up the lights. So just give us a couple minutes.
Very nice Wi-Fi name.
I actually can't log into work from I have two. This one is for gaming and streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't log in because they check everything at work, so I can't log in from. You should see the other one. So
Okay.
I see that Teresa is already here. We have Ludmila Pauli and Maniac Czech.
Hey guys.
Welcome, guys. Let's get the lights on.
That's a lot of light.
It's bright, but you will get used to it. So, Michal, welcome to Something po Anglicky.
Thank you for having me, Miguel. It's a pleasure.
For those of you that don't know who the hell you are, could you please introduce yourself?
I'll try. This is always the worst question because this is something that you usually don't prepare for that much. But my name is Michal, and I'm a founder of a company, Madmonq. It's a Czech company that focuses on bringing health and creating cool products for the gaming community. And we started in 2017, and five years later, we're still rolling.
Well, that's a good sign. And we have already a donation.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Thank you, Petra.
Hi, Petra. Petra is actually our CMO.
She's amazing. You couldn't have done better.
And we've been working together, I think, for 3 months, and it feels like it's been 10 years because it's very intense and very nice.
And that's a really difficult job to marketing as well.
Yeah, and I see, sorry, I see Dusan is also in the chat.
Is she? What?
Hi Dusan. Yeah, because I slept at his place.
Oh,
He has a very nice home gym, so I used it in the morning, and he was sleeping. So, I just left.
I think this is the first time that he's actually here in the podcast. So I hope he watches it all.
In the chat room. Got it.
The only thing is that we can't gossip about him now.
I think we can.
We can. We still will, right?
I still think that Miguel has a much better setup than Dusan.
Ooh, Jesus! Those are fighting words, Michal.
He'll be fine. But
actually, the one thing about Dusan is that my friend Peter has been helping me to. Well, he actually introduced me to Dusan, and he helped me to promote the podcast. But he's mostly working with foreigners, right? And that's where he's big. But Dusan has been really the big push for me.
Yeah,
I think those numbers are mainly due to him and his support. So I owe that guy my firstborn child.
Okay.
So Dusan, as soon as I have a kid, I will bring it to you, and you can do whatever you want with it.
You can keep it.
Yeah, just be nice to it.
All right, yeah, that's definitely a good strategy. Anyway, so Petra is doing marketing for us, and I think it's one of the toughest jobs because we are so specific. And how do you market to gamers? How can you keep the magic, the fun, how do you not become a boring company that
you can easily?
It's super easy, and it's if it's okay, we'll probably jump around.
That's how Something po Anglicky is like. Actually, I got yelled at the other day.
By who? By Dusan?
No, I got a first negative comment.
Oh, okay.
It was I think it was Fufi, and she was like, "Oh, you move all over the place. Stop it."
I do that. So I'm probably going to be the second person to get yelled at.
So we'll get along just fine.
It's called it's called fidgeting, and when you don't, I don't know. Some people do it naturally, some people don't. But it's all right. I'll drop one really cool fact because there is a research that looks at people who are fidgeting, meaning they're always doing something with their feet.
That's me.
Yeah, and it's crazy. But if you look at the energy expenditure of people who do this, they routinely burn 500 to 600 calories more per day. So that's why usually you will have troubles of getting, bigger.
Really? I have no problems. Look at this brujo. It's not working.
It's Slovak diet right there.
Exactly.
I would say.
But the thing with the fidgeting is that I need to be tapping my foot or doing something because I get really bored. But the thing about changing the subjects is actually, I think it's mostly due not because of my nature as a fidgeter, but professional deformation. Have you ever heard of this?
Of course.
So for the people that don't know, professional deformation is when you on purpose reduce your ability to do something just to match with everyone else. So a good example is, for example, when I speak English. I speak differently with American people than I do with people who are not native speakers. Right? Slowly, I try to be more clear, and that's one example. When it comes to the conversations, I used to work as an English teacher, so you need to keep it going. And the focus is not really the topic, but it's speaking English. So I think that I treat the conversation like this.
All right. English. All right. Where does the interest in English come from for you?
I mean, I needed it. Like I grew up speaking two languages, English and Spanish. I know that you speak Italian as well, right?
Pochissimo.
Ah.
Only a little bit. Yeah. I spent 1 year in Italy.
I saw that you have a university degree from an Italian university.
From Bocconi, and it was part of the master's degree where I was focusing on innovations in healthcare, and it was a really cool place because it's a top business university in Italy, in Milan, and I had experience with Berlusconi's son.
Oh, really?
And he was walking around the campus with bodyguards.
That's insane. Usually people who have kids, famous kids, they study abroad. But I guess they didn't want to learn a language.
Italian pride, I would say. So I had experience in this, and it was a really nice year. But I think I was focusing too much on the health stuff, and I was neglecting the Italian stuff. So it was fine for me to speak in, to understand and get around in public transport, cafes, restaurant. That was absolutely fine. And that's when you get slapped on the wrist when you say espresso, as you do here. So you have to be.
I hate presso when people say presso.
Yes, and there is no such thing as piccolo, which for some reason we say here in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. There's no such thing. You have ristretto, you have espresso, and then you have lungo, americano, and all the other types of coffee. So and it was crazy because in Italy you have, I would say, way too many coffee breaks.
Right, and you know that the inventor of the espresso machine, I don't know if you know why he invented the espresso machine.
No, I don't know.
So actually, that's a funny story because he was the owner of a factory, and the workers, of course, as you mentioned, they went for coffee, but they always took too long. So the guy was like, how can I reduce the time that they are spending making coffee? So he came up with the espresso machine for the express purpose of reducing the time it takes to make a coffee.
All right, I like it.
I mean, ingenuity, right?
Yeah. And when you are, and he came up with something that is actually really cool because espresso. There's always beauty to different types of coffee, and they always change the way it tastes, but also the chemical composition. And that's when you start thinking about. And I'm a coffee drinker myself, so for me it's coffee and Madmonq always. Usually coffee's in the morning, and the reason why I drink coffee is because it helps with appetite, and it acts as an appetite suppressant. So you
And
don't
probably a diuretic too.
a little bit, but this is when you're not used to it. I think there's definitely a learning curve for your body, and then it becomes a little better. But definitely yes. But actually, I was very interested in. Well, all right. Just roll back a little bit in time. I spoke when I was speaking to Dusan yesterday. I was speaking about my everlasting interest in health, and it came from a really young age. And one of the interesting topics for me was when I was thinking about how can I keep on weight. I had the opposite problem. Usually when you're young, I was super skinny. I'm not like the bulkiest, but it got better. And the problem was that when I stopped exercising and I stopped eating, I always lost weight. So I would be working out like crazy for 2 months. I would just put on 2-3 kilos. I was super happy, and then one bad day of not eating, drinking, and everything would be gone. And even if I cut down the calories by accident because I was, for example, traveling, I was losing weight. I was like, shit. Can you say
You can, of course.
Okay.
I'm just looking at you and thinking how I wish that was me.
It comes with age. I can give you some tips and tricks.
You will have to.
But I was figuring out how can I, because it became super annoying, just making sure that you eat these 5 to 6 portions per day, that you are watching the macros and proteins and everything. And I was like, hey, I don't like this. So I was thinking, what if I turn it around completely and I stop eating, right? What's going to happen? Because, one of the really cool things is if you look at the evolutionary biology and where we come from, we don't come from a place where there was excess of food, of calories, of sustenance. We didn't have that in the past at all. And more often than not, we were hungry. We were, scavenging for food, looking for food, and that was the natural state. Our bodies were used to this, hunger state. We didn't have so right now the situation, the environment we're in, we're basically overflown with super palatable foods. Yeah,
but I'm still like in that instinctive. Like I can say that I really relate to our past human self because I'm constantly gathering food and looking for.
And now it's easier than ever. You don't have to go out and hunt it or scavenge it. You don't have to exert calories to actually get it.
Just with an app.
Exactly.
But it's extremely interesting that you mentioned these studies because also recently I was reading about gender roles and about like how difficult and confusing it is for men because in the past we were used to being hunters and gatherers and all this, and now we play a different role in society, and we are still struggling to find our place.
Oh yes, and it's if you look at it, you are fighting against tens of thousands of years of biology, and you're putting an evolution, and you're putting and the context that we are in right now is 150 years. The evolution didn't catch up, so it's really crazy, and we are screwed. Anyway, going back to what I was saying. So I thought, hey, maybe it's about teaching your body not to have food, right? And so that's why I started figuring out, and started learning about fasting, learning about not eating, started learning about intermittent fasting, and my personal hypothesis was that, hey, right now we are living in the world of excess. We have a lot of food. Our bodies are accustomed to eating at very specific intervals, and of course, we will want to put on as much weight as possible. We will want to, because the biology didn't catch up. The biology still thinks that, hey, tomorrow there might not be food, right?
It could even be true in our reality now in this world.
Yes, that's definitely said and right. But I thought, hey, maybe if we go back to the original programming and we try to teach our bodies to not have food, let's see what's going to happen. So I started experimenting with fasting. I started, not eating for 12 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, and I started doing it regularly. And after a couple of attempts, I figured out, it's actually not so bad, because if you don't eat, the hunger is going to subside. And there is something that's the reason why you get the feeling of hunger is there's this hormone called ghrelin, and ghrelin is the hunger hormone, but it subsides. So there is it really depends on your schedules, but usually after you wake up, there's 30 minutes where you're fine, and then your stomach starts growling, and you're trying to figure out, what should I get? But if you can survive this 30 minutes, 1 hour, you'll be fine. And coffee helps, because coffee is a good appetite suppressant. Anyway, so I started experimenting with fasting. And when you're fasting, you are basically teaching. All right. One more thing before I get into this. There's two very specific. I always say that your body can run on multiple. You have two engines. You have the benzene engine, and you have the diesel engine, right? So benzene and naphtha. The benzene, the gas engine, standard fuel engine, is what you do every day. So you're burning carbohydrates, you are eating, rice, potatoes. You have a good reservoir of glycogen and carbohydrates, so you're fine. But when this gets depleted, and this is usually after 18 to 36 hours, when you stop eating carbs, your body depletes the reservoirs of glycogen and carbohydrates. Your body painfully switches to the second engine, which is the diesel engine, and you start burning fat. And I think this has been super popular 2-3 years ago. It's still popular now, ketogenic diet. This is when your body prioritizes fat and fatty acids as
it
fuel.
eats itself.
This is the limbo. This is the limbo in between, when your body eats itself a little bit, but after you go through this period, you start burning fat, and this is actually a very high maintenance engine, because when you're burning fat, your body this kind of gives the body the signal that, hey, this is a survival time. I don't have carbohydrates. I need to go into my own, reservoirs of fat, and I should probably be a little bit more careful. So there's a whole bunch of metabolic effects of ketogenic diet, but the primary thing is that your body will learn to work with fat, right? And it's painful for the first time, the second time that you go into ketosis and you start burning fat, but after the third, fourth time, your body, it's not so bad, and I can switch quickly. And actually, when this goes hand in hand with fasting, and when I was fasting, I learned that, okay, I'm burning fat now. My body is able to burn fat, and whenever I went back to the carbohydrate diet, I was able to maintain my weight, because my body was not panicking. My body knew that I am actually able to survive without food, and there's always this second engine, which was super. It was, I would say, we spent maybe half and half time in the past in both of these states. Right now, we are being fed by carbs from the day we are born, basically, right? So our bodies didn't have time to actually learn and adapt it, but the programming is there. So
for me, is a bit tricky, because yesterday you were discussing it quite a bit about diabetes. I'm a diabetic.
Oh, type 1, type 1, yeah?
Type 1, yeah. So my struggle is always, if I don't eat, I feel horrible. Like those balances. And actually, the thing that I struggle with the most is low sugar, because of the medication that I take. And people always like, why are you taking a chocolate, or why are you eating something sweet? Because I have to, or I will pass out. Actually, and that's one of the reasons that I really like Madmonq, because I used to take like an energy drink here and there, but just the sugar goes up so much. And for me, it's double, right? Because the energy goes up and the sugar goes up, and then the energy comes down, and then I get the drop in sugar, and it's twice as bad.
Yeah, I have to say that I was experimenting with the continuous glucose monitor. Before that, I was always pricking my finger, because this is when you were so there's two types of just to be super simple, there's two types of diabetes. You have diabetes type 1 and diabetes type 2. Diabetes type 1 is usually caused by some either genetic disorders or autoimmune disease that basically at some point in time, it can be very early after birth or throughout your early days, puberty, even later in life, your body will decide at some point that, hey, these beta cells that produce insulin, they look like enemies, so let's kill them. And your body kills the only thing that produces insulin. And then you don't have a way to actually do it. So when you eat anything that is sweet, or when you eat anything, so not sweet, but you eat anything that is rich in carbohydrates, it is going to get into your bloodstream, but your body doesn't have the ability to process it, basically. So that's why you have to inject yourself with insulin, most likely, correct?
But the body knows, because from a young age, before I was...
When did you develop it?
In my early 20s. But from a very young age, I never liked candy. And my body's, I don't know if it's repulse is the right word, but I don't, candy is not a thing that attracts me.
Okay.
So it's like my body always knew, and so when something is extremely sweet, I just don't want it.
But it's actually, here my experience with because we're talking a little bit about Mexico, Belize, Guatemala. You're from Guatemala, and my experience with everybody there loves Coke. Everybody there loves sweet. And when I went to a pastry shop, everything is sweet. You even have. I think this was more for tourists, but. Papaya juice. Ooh. It's great by itself, but in Mexico, in Belize, they put sugar in it.
Yeah, it's normal. It's like you make a banana smoothie, but this is the U.S. influence. Like it really is, and I see it in myself, because I used to love certain things from the U.S., some sweets, and when I get them now, I can't eat them. Okay, they are too sweet. Yeah, I've been living in Europe for too long.
No, that's good. I would say that's good. Anyway, so this is so you're type 1 diabetic, and the type 2 diabetes is I think this is a problem now, but it's going to be a problem, a much bigger problem going to the future, is diabetes that you develop. And it's basically when you eat a lot of food that is rich in carbohydrates, sugars, and you eat it constantly, and you get a little bit more obese, and there is bigger volume, you have to eat more, and the same cells that your body decided for some reason to kill. In type 2 diabetics, they get into overdrives. They need to produce more insulin, they get burned out, and they die out. The same way, this is reversible a little bit, but still super dangerous. But it's super nice to actually figure out, because this is, I think, individual for some people, for many people, to figure out how your body reacts to different foods that contain carbohydrates or sugar. And that's why, I was pricking my finger and figuring out, so if I eat pasta, let's check the sugar, this much. All right, let's check it a little bit later, this much. And I have to say, and that kind of brought a lot of respect from myself to people who have type 1 diabetes, because the management must be super tough.
But it's actually horrible what you mentioned, that it's different for everybody, because I've spent so much time reading, trying to inform myself, even like trying to determine like a plan of what to eat. But everybody is different, and like some people cannot have something. I can. They cannot. I should eat this. No, I can. It's really confusing, and you gotta throughout the years, you know what you feel good with and what you don't.
Exactly, and I think this is something that always comes with age and experience, and you need to listen to your body. Yeah, you need to listen to what your body tells you, how you feel after certain foods, and I think this is super important. There's of course rules and rules of thumb that you can apply, but you always need to be wary about your personal.
And this is a nice segue, Michal, into one question that I had for you.
Mhm.
You left what I imagine to be a lucrative and good job in pharma, big pharma, to do something good for the world.
Mhm.
But what is your opinion about pharma and talking about diabetes and cancer and things like this? I imagine that if we really wanted to solve those problems,
Mhm.
it would be possible.
Mhm.
But there is so much money
Mhm.
behind like diabetes medication and treating diabetes and
Mhm.
also cancer. So
This is a very tough topic. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I was so I had two separate careers. One was in the really heavy pharma, which was the job I had at Novo Nordisk. Novo Nordisk is number one pharma company in the world with cutting edge diabetic care. I'm not sure if you take anything from Novo Nordisk or you have
probably.
probably
Probably.
probably, yeah. And so that was really something that is related to drugs and treatment of certain illnesses and diseases and making your health better. And then I had the second job, which was more in the supplement industry. The company had drugs, but the drugs were OTC, so you could buy them over the counter, and it wasn't really solving really the tough health issues, right?
And this is Michal, sorry to interrupt you, but you just brought up a great expression. And for our English learners, over the counter
Mm-hmm.
is when you say without prescription, without recept,
Mm-hmm.
is over the counter. Thank you for teaching our listeners.
Fun fact: you can get Viagra in Poland over the counter
Oh
without the
wow, that's
prescription.
good information for a friend.
Actually, there is many people who use it because it's good for blood circulation. Obviously, they use it for gym.
Actually, I think it started off as a
As
a
hard drug.
medicine for that, right?
Yeah. It's and this is a really interesting, I think, time for drugs right now because historically and um, this is a very broad topic, but I think it's interesting. Historically, there were you didn't really know, or you could have some hypothesis as to what the molecule that you have could be and could do. But then you, for example, saw that, hey, other markers, health markers are improving, or this drug is actually not doing what we thought, is doing something else. So the results and the effects were usually trial and error. And right now, for the last 10, 15 years, we are actually, because of the genome sequencing and we are actually, and with understanding a little bit more about the biology and how stuff works, because this is still so complicated and there's still so much stuff we don't know. We are actually able to develop drugs for with based on not chance but based on mechanism of action that we understand.
And this is maybe a good segue into my next question on the big pharma thing is I've also read that there's very little innovation on new medicine.
Because it's super hard, actually. It's super hard, the whole clinical trial process and going from the ideation that, hey, there's this molecule, and then getting it to the market. This is usually 10 to 12 years. So it's a super long process, super expensive, with unsure and uncertain outcomes. So yes, some big companies can do it. For example, Novo Nordisk, the big drug that we were putting onto the Italian market was called Victoza. The molecule was semaglutide or liraglutide, very similar GLP-1 analogs, and this was designed to treat pre-diabetic patients. So it was supposed to help with sensitivity it was supposed to help your body sensitize to insulin without, the remaining, because it was for type 2 diabetics, without the beta cells being going into overdrive. But what Novo Nordisk actually learned is that this drug also suppresses appetite, and it really helps with calorie control. So they actually, after it was developed for diabetics, it became a weight loss drug. Completely by chance. And it is right now, I think, one of the most functional and safe weight loss drugs that is available on the market.
And what is it used for? Mainly still diabetes or for weight loss?
Right now, I would say weight loss. And it's a really cool molecule, but this is the chance aspect to it, right? You figure out, hey, it's actually doing this as well, so let's try it, right? So and there's many historical reasons, like sildenafil was I think first designed for heart disease, right? But then the guys kept coming for more. Like, hey, I want a little bit of that drug for heart. It works really well for me. And after some research, they figure out that it helped with erection.
Especially a lot of the medication that's used to treat psychological diseases, like they were not meant to treat that. And
exactly. And there is, I think this is a whole different area, because it's what is happening in your mind is affecting everything, right? And we were talking a little bit about ADHD, and I think if there is one area that I think is being really oversold as a problem, it's the ADHD medicine. And
Adderall is one of them.
And this is super popular in the US. Adderall, modafinil, Ritalin, Zracetams. There's so many.
Michal, a question here is, we have like more instances of these diseases like autism and a whole bunch of things that we live with now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that people are weaker, or we have better ways to diagnose, or how did people, if we had the same amounts in the past, how did people live without medicine?
We just got slapped on the wrist and on the face, then deal with it. that was the Czech and Slovak way, and there was no such thing as ADHD. And of course, it is a diagnosis and it is a medical problem, but I think it's overdiagnosed. And especially in the US, it is being subsidized heavily, and it is being forced onto the general practitioners, GPs, to prescribe it. And students know this, and they would go to the doctors, showing symptoms of ADHD, having learned the script, what to say to actually get the prescription.
So they're abusing it.
And they are abusing it, yeah. And that's I think one of the big problems, because we talked with Dusan a little bit about this. It was about the dopamine balance, and if you're healthy and you don't need this, it is going to screw up your neurobiology, and it's something that you really don't want to do. And the same goes for antidepressants. There's definitely cases where they can and they do save lives, but these are also, I would say, overprescribed a little bit.
And I know a little about this because I had I broke my coccyx. I fractured it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having trouble sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first thing that my doctor prescribed was Xanax.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
They immediately go to these things. Like, it's just take some pills. And I hate taking pills. Like, when I get a cold, I don't take any medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I try to, only if I get a sore throat, then I'll get something because I brother gotta live. But typically it's just insane, like what they're prescribing.
Yeah, that's definitely right. And I think one of the ways is actually people don't realize this, but really small infections in the past, you're screwed. There's no penicillins. There's nothing. You get a small cut, it gets infected. You don't cut off your leg, you're screwed. So stuff like this people probably don't realize, but it's with the birth of antibiotics is actually something that completely changed and transformed how we live, how we treat people.
And that's the scary part, Michal, because they're becoming less and less effective.
Exactly. And there is something called, antibiotic resistance, and this is due to of course, antibiotics being overprescribed, but also due to many other factors. And I'm super happy for my, when I was a kid, we had a GP. So my doctor didn't give me and was really postponing to give me antibiotics because he knew, hey, his body is young, he can handle it. And usually I could. And this strengthens the immune system, and you are not helping your body. Your body is actually learning to fight off the disease, and your immunity gets stronger. If you get overprescribed antibiotics, your body will get lazy. And there's always the... it's always really, if you look at any antibiotic treatments, or if you look at any, I'll give it a different example. Yeah, you have these Purells, these gels, right? That was super popular in the times of the Corona, and antibiotics, antiseptic soaps, or anything that kills bacteria and viruses. There's a catch. And they always say that it kills 99.9% of the bacteria. And usually, your skin, your gastrointestinal tract, your mouth, it's all bacteria. So if you wash it off, yes, it will be clean, but there will be some really strong...
you leave the strong ones there.
Exactly. And I give you, I think there's a really cool example that beautifully describes what happens is, but these stronger bacterial strains colonize, and they get bigger, and then it gets tougher to actually get rid of them. And there's a really cool example which shows this, and it was an experiment done on fruit flies. And you take fruit flies, and some fruit flies die in this experiment. So I apologize.
Press F in the chat, guys, for the fruit flies that gave their lives.
Basically, you have you take a standard population of fruit flies. You catch them, you breed them, and you have 100 fruit flies. Then you put them in aquarium, and you wait for them to start dying. So F for fruit flies. Once there is only 20% of the initial population left, the strongest one, because they survived, you give them a banana, right? They feed, they reproduce, and you wait a little bit, and you have 100 fruit flies again. Then you repeat the experiment. So you leave the strong ones to again,
Darwin here.
Yes, you leave the strong ones to actually survive. The 80% die off always, and you give them a banana, right? And you repeat this experiment for 60 generations. Initially, the fruit flies would survive for 20 hours. After 60 generations, which is not that much, how long do you think the fruit flies could survive without food?
7 days.
160 hours, which is close to that. So eight times stronger, basically. And this is fruit flies. If you look at bacteria and the rate of reproduction, it's much quicker. So you need to be careful, and that's anything antibacterial, antiseptic, I usually throw out. I don't like it.
But this concept of weeding out the weak is also tricky, because, for example, if you take into account a disease, like maybe some people will survive it, they would be considered the strong ones, but maybe they wouldn't survive a different disease, because this is why mixing is such a good idea, guys. To mix outside of your race or your group of people, because people are naturally immune to certain diseases. There's some diseases that like sickle cell anemia is very predominant with black people, for example. Diabetes is typically a disease of us Latinos and also black people, even though everybody gets it. But these mixing kind of prevents you from getting some of these diseases. Have you heard about this?
I'm not sure if I know exactly what you mean.
Like
but
marrying outside of your
Mhm.
group and having children, those
Yeah,
children
yeah,
will be more resistant
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
what typically would be
Yeah,
affecting you.
that's right, and this is the evolution in progress. Definitely yes. And there's something that I promise that I will buy to Dushan, which is the test 23andMe.
Actually, do they sell it in Slovakia?
I think you can buy it definitely. And there was a problem initially, and I think I bought it in 2011, 2012, and you could only get so basically 23andMe is a genome sequencing project.
By the CIA?
By the CIA and by the big pharma to know everything about you. Actually, GlaxoSmithKline I think bought them. But anyway, it was a really cool idea. So what they do, you purchase it online. They send you a vial, you spit in it, and you send it back. And after a couple of days, weeks, they send you a result. And so they sequence your genome, and they tell you about health predispositions, health traits, but not only about health, they tell you about the ancestry. And that's why, for example, I learned that I am more Slovak than Czech.
Wow. And people also found relatives.
Yes, exactly. And it's cool because this is really science, right? And I was speaking about so my grandma is from Slovakia, and I was speaking to her. Is it possible that we have relatives in the U.S.? And I said, yeah, there. And we actually found them, right? And that was
Was it in
super.
Pittsburgh?
Uh, I think Chicago.
Because there's a huge Slovak community in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And now that you're talking about this, ever since Dushan was in my podcast,
Mhm.
I started to grow red hairs on my beard. Like, can you please confirm for the audience?
Yeah, there are some. I can see. I can see it.
What is that all about?
I don't know.
It's weird, right? I need to talk to my mom. Mom, if you're watching this, we have a conversation to have.
I actually I had some time because I woke up really early in the morning, so I shaved.
Yeah, you're looking handsome today.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I butchered my face with with the razor, so hopefully it's gonna be fine for the Wednesday party.
Which, actually, we can have a small break to do a couple of things that I like to do in something po Anglicky now that you mentioned the party. First of all, we gotta take a picture. I always forget the picture.
What should I do? Chat, what should I do?
Just come here.
With the microphone?
Yeah. Let's pretend that you like being next to me. Okay, the second thing is you have to sign the PC.
Okay.
So here is the marker. I'm gonna shake it for you. And just anywhere you want. Up to you. Just you can sign. Oh wait. Let me change the camera. I'm sorry. I forgot. Okay, guys. Can you see? Oh, I forgot. Wait. Let's see if we can get it going. Oh, there we go. So there.
So I can. This is Dusan.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And me signing something, I'm not a celebrity, so you have just a random signature on your PC from a random half Slovak dude.
Well, I think there's great potential. I think when you're a multimillionaire,
Sure.
all it takes is a good idea.
Well, I don't agree with this.
Really?
No, I don't.
Let's discuss.
I don't agree with this because there is millions of ideas everywhere, and it's about execution. So that's why many entrepreneurs and people in the business, they are super happy to share ideas because they know how hard it is to actually put into place. And it's hard. So it's about the execution. It's about making sure that you understand who you're serving and how to communicate to them, and then it's about figuring out the logistics and economy of the whole project. And this is not easy.
This is something we were discussing, Michal, before about. Do you think that being in Czechoslovakia Has that been a benefit for Madmonq?
No, it's been, I would say, it's our home market, but uh, hmm, how to how to approach this? I think there's a couple of ways to talk about this, and one is, of course, it's a native market. It's close. You understand the language, which is always very nice. So you can move faster. But if you have a good idea with good execution and with a really nice team, which I feel that we have, you will build something that is awesome. And but and the big but here is the fact that the market, if you really want to create something big, something that has global potential, the market is small for the beginning. And if if we started in Germany, if we started in France, if we started in UK, in the US, I think with pretty much the same effort, with the same team, we could be serving a bigger market, right? So the place from which you start is smaller, and this can be a disadvantage. But it's not, it really depends how you think about it. So it definitely has advantages, but I would say this is one of the biggest disadvantages, because you can, conquer the market, you can become a household name, but still, if you look at, if you compare population-wise, Czech Republic to the bigger European markets, or to the US or to Asia, it's still small. And yeah, as I said, with maybe a little bit more effort, but not that much, we could be in the same position in the bigger market. Have we started there?
Yeah, it's tricky because if you talk about world perspective, yes, but locally, I think
Yeah.
a lot of the ideas take a while to come here,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people capitalize on that. That there's a lot of great concepts from abroad, and they bring them here. And I think I look at it more from the workplace perspective, right? Not as somebody who would ever start a business, because I don't have that
Hey,
je ne sais quoi, you know.
I'll tell you, I never really thought that I was going to be a businessman. I always thought that I'm going to be super happy in my corporate job. And we didn't finish the question in the beginning, but there's a big difference between a corporate job and then having a startup and just hustling, right? In corporation, yes, it can be tough and you can work hard, but usually the effort that you put in will not translate directly into the effect. You don't really see what will be happening with the ideas. You have to really preserve, and that was actually my issue when I was working for the big companies. You had to work really hard to make sure that your idea is heard and implemented, and I would say the effort was disproportionate to the result, and you really had to put in 10
I
times
fully agree.
you really have to put in 10 times the work if you really care about the job to have 10% of the result. And then there is a marketing person who will just take it, turn it a little bit, or will not do a good job because you don't have it under control. And then the whole idea would be, ruined, basically. And that was one of the big reasons why I decided to leave the corporation, because then you can, I think eventually you will be faced with yes, you can, you can hustle, you can really just put in the hours, but going up the corporate ladder, it usually means bigger responsibility, more hours, and then it's still tough, right? And it's not usually your company, so you're working for someone else. And you kind of, at that time you start figuring things out a little bit, but for me it wasn't there, because I felt that my energy could probably have a better use, right? And I think for some it can be completely valid, and definitely fulfilling, but you need to find that corporate job that is good, right? Because there's many jobs in the corporate sphere that will at a certain point feel like you're stuck, you don't have any power over the outcomes. And I think there comes a decision when you really need to figure out, hey, is this something I'm okay with, or do I want to change things around?
But I also think that you're in a special category
Mm-hmm.
of startups, because usually somebody that has a startup, their goal is to build it and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's you.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we do sell Madmonq, it's definitely going to be to someone who is super in line with what we're doing, right? And this is something that I realized, even speaking to Dusan yesterday. Right now, gaming is, I would say, at the crossroads, right? And we can either go in the direction of this not too healthy lifestyle, where the big sponsors really care about, hey, drink our drinks, eat Doritos,
They're
and
good.
not move that much. Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Or there could be a company, an idea, an influencer that would try to steer things around and really show gamers that health is also a super important piece of their hardware. And I think this is important because we were discussing with Dusan yesterday as well. There comes a time when you realize, shit, I am 24, 25. My metabolism is not what it used to. And I have probably done some damage that is going to be really tough to right now, because the older you get, usually the harder it is to do something with your health. And we would really like to show that this realization that, hey, health is important should come a little bit earlier in life. Yeah.
Do you think that with that concept, are you planning to do something about reaching out to kids? Because I think that's where the big opportunity is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your brand is extremely well known. I work in summer camps.
Mm-hmm.
Like I volunteer every year at a medical camp for children.
I worked at summer camp as well.
So we will talk about this. But with this, with the kids, like the brand is very recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people that you could make a big difference with.
Mm-hmm.
So gummy vitamins?
There is definitely plan, because you need to start with there's the grassroots approach which you definitely need to also address. But right now we are starting with kind of the middle grounds with the people like Dusan, Agraelus, Czech Cloud, Kameto in France, Forsen in Sweden, when we are trying to influence people who are right in the middle. But there will come a time when this is also a big topic, because this is important. This is definitely important. Yeah.
Because I think kids are the most at risk because they are bombarded with crap
Mm-hmm.
on television, on YouTube, everywhere. It's like, yeah, eat this, drink this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever gone in public transport, you see the kids with the energy drinks, with the monsters and...
Mm-hmm. And these are the unfortunate habits that you pick up, and they are really tough to shed off when you get older. So there is definitely a big reason to try to sort it out as well, and we'll get there. But there is still we need to be focused now on what we're doing, and but this comes later, definitely.
For sure. We are going to have a look at the chat now because we've been ignoring it for a bit. And I just want to make sure that... Okay, how can some people... Okay. It looks like there were no questions. They're having fun on their own. People like your voice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I guess you could... Oh, and what's happening here with the... There is no video. Oh, no. Actually, there is.
All right.
I forgot that we're not playing it, but the chat is going.
All right.
But
so gummies. Gummies actually not so good as a form because usually if you look at the composition of the gummies, first of all there is no space, and because you have to cook the gelatin, I usually destroy stuff that can be good. So plus there is no space to actually put a lot of active ingredients. And if you look at the composition, there is a lot of glucose fructose syrup, and it's a small thing, right? 3, 4, 5 grams per gummy, but still it adds up. And some of the products actually have multiple gummies per day because of the, limited amount of active ingredients. We have to eat like 4 or 5 to actually fulfill the recommended daily dose of vitamin C or something like this, which comes at the expense of eating a lot of sugar when you're a kid. So I'm not a big fan of gummies. There's definitely products that are good because you don't need that much of the active ingredients, but definitely not for the kids. And this is something that we believe very firmly in Madmonq, is that, and that's why actually Madmonq, even though as a product it is something that should be and would be okay for people over the age of 12, we really focus people who are older than 18. Yeah, so, and the reason for this is very simple. I'm a really firm believer that people under 18 should really learn to work with their bodies as they are. And this is, if you, that was a big surprise for me when I was working for the other company here in the Czech Republic, was when I was speaking to experts, and this has been confirmed many times. I was always asking them, hey, if you were to pick diet or physical exercise as a way or as a vessel towards good health, what would you pick? And I would say, going into this discussion, I thought that, the split is going to be 50-50 for sure, or something like this. But actually, 9 out of 10 experts would always pick physical exercise over diet.
Really?
And it's, if there is one supplement or one thing people can do to really improve their health in many ways, it's just, move. And that's, if you don't have this in place, if you don't have the right diet or just reasonable diet in place, any pill, even Madmonq, even Champion, will be a really small sprinkle of help. Yeah, we're not just about the product, we are about the brand and about teaching this stuff. But one thing that is, I think, the silver bullet is just, getting your ass moving.
I actually wanted to ask you because the first time I actually tried these products were with Dushan when he brought them.
Mm-hmm.
What is the correct dosage, or what is the correct way to take them? And by the way, I like Champion more.
Mm-hmm. So we have 2 products.
Yeah. We have them here. You can grab them if you want.
So I'll just point at them. So the purple one with the bolt is the flagship product, Madmonq. That was the first product, and it was developed to serve the need of performance, and it was created as a substitute or alternative to prescription medication that was unfortunately being abused in esports. The product went through a couple of iterations. So right now we are at version 3. Which basically means that it is considerably better than the first version. And then we decided to add the second product, which is the Champion product, which is not a boosting product, but was developed as a product that serves or addresses health deficiencies that gamers are at risk of developing or already developed. And this comes. We actually wanted to launch Champion in 2022, late 2022, but we decided to accelerate the launch because we saw that there is a big interest of gamers for health-related products. And you can check via Google searches. You can check via just going to Dushan's, to Wojciech, to Melichar's, and you see that they are actually trying to solve certain health issues. So that's why we accelerated the Champion. And then we put it onto the market. And the product is actually developed to address, to help with immunity, circulation. There's things and minerals that gamers and people who sit behind the computer are usually deficient in, zinc, selenium, and there's plenty of other stuff. There's even stuff for beauty, if you can say it. And it's always something that, gamers laugh at, but they care. Right, and they would buy products that help promote the beard growth, right? Like angry beards,
the red beard.
Exactly. So there is stuff in Madmonq that actually helps with this as well. There is stuff that helps, your liver detox after, not only after a night of drinking, but after, if you your liver can go into overdrive as well if you're not eating properly. There is stuff that is related to eyesight and eye health, and these are probably the if you look at lutein, zeaxanthin, and if you look at the products that are currently on the market, I really like those two molecules and carotenoids, which are present in the macula and in your eyes, and you need them. You need to get them from the diet. I really like these molecules, but I don't like recommending the products because I know the products are shitty. Because these molecules, if you just put them outside, they will be gone. They will be destroyed by the light, by the moisture in 2 hours. So you really need to have a really good product that will ensure that the stability of the ingredients. And this is what we did actually in Champion.
Is that why you chose pills?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you choose pills, because you can really have high quality ingredients without the preservatives. You can really control the whole process. You have something that is called pre-process control, in-process control, post-process control, and you always can measure whether what you have in the what you claim on the label is actually in the product.
And you mentioned yesterday that people have an affinity to, I don't know what you guys were talking about, mini Martians.
yeah.
My thing was the Flintstones. That's what we had.
Okay.
So we have a completely different thing. That's like the most famous thing in not only in the US but also in the whole of America as a continent. We have the Flintstones, and those were the vitamins that we were taking. So that's what I connected with.
Okay. Yeah. I have to say that I think the Flintstones could have been an inspiration for mini Martians.
Probably 100%, I'm sure.
Because and that was when I was working for the Czech Pharma company. It was founded by three brothers, and initially it was a company that was doing just buying and selling stuff. Then they created this fruit juice division. But then there was this one guy that joined the three brothers, Valk brothers, my boss, and I've been going to the US a lot. Let's try the food supplement business. And one of the main ways he got inspired was always going to the conferences outside in the US and bringing the ideas that were super super hot on the market in the US and bringing them into the Czech Republic.
This is something you can still do now. What I was talking about before.
Exactly. And this is right now. I will not go into the details, but there is for in generally anything health related in the US that is right now picking up and is becoming a trend is going to be a trend in Europe. Usually after 1 year and a half, 2 years. And this is very, you can build on this and you can, exactly. And this is, tech stuff as well. If there is a really successful startup
applications.
In the US, and there's whole funds that are built on this. They just take the idea that is popular in the US and they bring it to Europe, or they bring it to Israel, or they bring it to Asia. And they just replicate the same idea. They create the brand, and they hope then for the American startup to actually purchase them. So yes, you can still do it, but it's still about execution.
So, tell me, what is the Flintstones in Slovak or Czech?
And that would be the mini Martians.
No, but I mean the actual name, the Flintstones. What was the cartoon called?
Flintstones.
Yeah, there was no
the guys from the the Neanderthals.
I'm surprised because in Spanish we had a name, Picapiedras.
Okay.
Los Picapiedras.
Okay. No, it's in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. It was the Flintstones. Yeah.
You learned something new.
Yeah. So we had that, and yeah, I like. Wait, 1 second. I might actually. We might ask chat, right? Because I don't know if we had it in the Czech Republic and Slovakia, but I definitely saw it on the Cartoon Network.
Like Boomerang as well.
Boomerang, I don't know.
Guys in the chat, it's like they have all the cartoons from the past.
Okay.
Guys in the chat, if you know if the Flintstones were called the Flintstones or not.
But I think yes, but I'm not sure if I checked it. 1 second. If I
And actually, I think we have some gifts, right, for the audience.
gifts, what kind
Yeah.
of gifts?
Some Madmonq.
Sure.
Are you gonna sign it?
You should sign it. You're
No, like,
more famous
like
than me.
nobody wants me to sign it, but I definitely want you to sign mine
Well,
before you go.
definitely. If there's a competition, if there is anything, super happy to give out a couple of Madmonqs or champions.
Hear that, guys? We'll get something signed.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to my notes.
I think Nova and Markiza aired it. Okay.
I think they.
I'll check. I'll try searching for it. 1 second. Flintstones.
While you search for that, I'm gonna get my book,
Mm-hmm.
which you will need, and then there's a question in the chat there for you.
The Flintstones. It doesn't have a good reviews. Yeah, Flintstones. It was called the same. Mm-hmm. Will you be moving into drinkables? We are planning new products, but I am going to keep it a secret. So I won't tell you what form and whether it's going to be drinkable or not. So I answered the question.
Very good, guys. And you didn't. You just gave them a. You just teased them.
What is it? What's the book?
So this book is it's about cool phrases,
Mm-hmm.
and we have this section in something po Anglicky where you will just go through the book and find a phrase that you find interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and then you will teach it to our listeners without giving the definition.
Okay.
So here you go.
Without giving a definition.
Yes. So you would just give examples of how it would be used, or the situation. Explain the situation where it would be used.
All right. So, and how do I pick?
The one that you like the most.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there is. So I don't read it. I read it.
No. You will just give the example or the situation, and then you say the phrase.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the situation would be when you are eating something in excess and you want to reduce it.
And what is the phrase?
Cut down on something.
Oh, there you go. Cut down. So, for example, if I'm eating too much, if I'm taking too much sugar in, is that a good thing?
Definitely. No, it's good. It's a good thing to cut down on it.
Perfect. So, guys, remember the phrase cut down. This is
Cut down on
actually an
something.
excellent book.
Okay.
It's by a Czech guy.
Really?
Hmm
Bronislav Sobotka. Nice.
He has a YouTube channel too.
My mom is an English teacher.
Wow. And is she teaching in a public school, or she's actually?
No, it's a private school, but I would say it's half public. It's a strange world.
How does she find it teaching kids English now? Because I find that more and more the newer generation doesn't want to learn English.
I think it really depends. For her, it's fine, and I really believe that it's a lot about the teacher as well, and that's why I really got just jumping back a little bit. It's about the reason why innovations were super exciting for me was the fact that I had a really cool teacher that brought me into the world of innovations, and I was always interested in the new stuff, and I was always interested in, hey, why this thing is going to be successful and the other not. And I didn't even know that, hey, there's something like innovation management, and there's something like innovation management in healthcare. And this teacher really got me into the subject, and then just opened the world of possibilities. Yeah. But I'll ask her whether there is a change or not. She'll definitely say that the kids may be getting lazier a little bit, and especially when everything is at the reach of. You have like this external brain. You don't need to remember.
Yeah, and this is a great segue into my question. What do you think of the instant gratification generation?
Oh, there is a so I'll bring another really, but I think this is a famous experiment. You probably heard about this. The audience probably heard about this, but there's this famous marshmallow experiment. Marshmallow experiment. It's called the marshmallow experiment, when a bunch of scientists decided to entertain the idea of the instant gratification and decided to measure it with really, really young kids and children. And they brought the children into a room, and they, usually 2 children at a time, and they gave them marshmallows. But they said, hey, these are the marshmallows, you can eat them, but if you don't eat them for 5 minutes, we'll come back with another marshmallow, right? And the basis for the experiment was figuring out whether this, delaying gratification, so you're not eating the marshmallow now, you'll wait, you'll get more, whether this actually going to translate into the kids being more successful.
And did it?
Yes, it did. So kids and children who were able to delay the gratification, they were able to wait for the marshmallows to not eat the marshmallows and wait for the second one, proved to be more successful, better GPAs, and higher salaries when they tested after a couple of... And this has been replicated many times. And I think this is the, if I can say, the bane of the today's world, this instant gratification, because it doesn't teach you attention, and everything is at the arm's reach. And I think it's good to work for something.
It's even a lack of patience. And I don't know if you see it, for example, in the corporate world when you're hiring. I've been hiring people for the past, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get young people, like fresh out of university,
mm-hmm.
they want a 4,000 euro salary, they want a car, they want a company phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just expect things without work.
Yes, that's true, and I don't know how to fix this. And I actually didn't really think about where it comes from, but it might be the interconnectedness of everything. It might be that it might be that, and that the people I come into contact with, they didn't really find their passions, and they weren't able to develop it yet. And I think this is something that is super, and I struggled with this for a really, really long time. What is my passion? What do I want to do? I knew that, gaming was fun. I was super interested in health, but what the hell do I do with this? And Madmonq was born, right? But I think unless you have something that you really want to and feel you can be better at, then it's going to be tough to actually, develop some proficiency at it. And then, yes, you will be able to ask for a better money maybe. But right now, I don't see that much. Exactly.
Passion is a hard thing to find.
Mm-hmm.
And at least me at 37, I find that it shifts.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really passionate about coffee. I don't know if you know that I used to be the district coffee master for Starbucks in Slovakia.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So I was in charge of teaching and educating people and also presenting new coffee.
All right, cool.
So that was my passion, but that shifted now to Zumba.
Mm-hmm.
I became a Zumba instructor, and I love doing Zumba now.
All right. Actually, one of the really cool... So in the beginning, and this is something that I didn't know how to do anything, so I was learning English, right? And there was this: how do I prove that I can speak English? So there was this, this was something that I was passionate about in the beginning. It was about getting this certificate. I wanted to get the FCE. Then I went to England for 3 weeks. They told me, hey, don't go for the FCE, go for the CAE, which is the second Cambridge. Then I came back, and then I had a really cool teacher, and he said, hey, don't go for the CAE, go for the CPE, which is the highest.
Mm.
So I was studying for it for I think half a year, and I went, and I was able to actually do it, and that was the end of it, right? So I got the CPE. I managed to get an A, which was very good at that time.
Gratuluję.
I wouldn't be able to do it now, probably.
I'm sure you would.
But that was one passion that I really liked, and then I was figuring out, hey, what will I do with my life? And I was, usually, and this is a shout out to my co-founder Peter, because he's like, hey, if you don't know how to do something, just fucking Google it.
Oh my God. This is what I always tell people, that in the age of Google, there is no reason to be ignorant.
Exactly. And in the age of smartphones, everybody has so much stuff, so much knowledge at their disposal. It's just about being curious and having just being curious, basically. Anyway, so I was Googling, how do you find your passion? What is the, meaning of life and stuff like this.
42.
And I came up with two really, for me at least, good pointers, which proved to be true for me and for many people that I spoke with. And the first thing is, what did you enjoy doing when you were a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what was the interest? What did you like doing?
So let me think. If I put myself in this experiment, I really enjoyed history and reading about cultures and mythology. Like, I really love exploring myth in different cultures.
And that was at what age?
Probably when I was around 9, 10.
Okay.
Is that too old?
That's too old.
Oh.
No, but
Power
I would say
Rangers.
until I think until 10 is fine. So that was the first question. And the second question is, if you had $100 million in your bank account, what would you do? Or the another take on the question is, if you had $1 billion, what problem would you like to solve in the world?
Hunger. Because maybe we're shifting topics, but this is what I like, and I'm sure you like it too. But it really upsets me in a bad way how much money people like Elon Musk have and how much they could do for the world. Because why does somebody need so much money? Like, what do you think? I always think that there should be a limit. Like, people couldn't have more than, let's say, $50 million. And then everything else that they made had to go to, I don't know, helping. But then again, I also think about the repercussions, right? That we were 8 billion people now, getting close to 8 billion people. And if everybody was being taken care of, then we would just double or triple. So,
like rabbits.
What is your take on that, on the super rich and just how?
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic, but I think there is one thing that really requires explanation, and there is something that is asset rich and cash poor, and I think this is the case for you, Elon Musk, 100%, right? So, yes, you read all these articles that these people are, worth $500 billion. But it doesn't mean that they have it in the account. They mean that they have it tied up in the Tesla stock. They have it tied up in SpaceX. And this is what Elon was until 2017, 2018. He didn't have any cash. Everything was tied. So in order to get the cash, he would have to sell the company or sell the stock, right? So, and I think for these people, they picked a different problem to solve. Important problem, the energy, in case of Elon, the energy problem, and the space colonization problem, which is equally, for them, it can be even more important, because for some reason they understand that this is something that then later could solve this problem. So, but yes, anyone who sits on a pile of cash and is not utilizing it properly is not. That's bullshit.
It kind of gets me to another thing that really annoys me, which is the thing about watching your carbon dioxide footprint and being a responsible citizen. And then I read about celebrities taking a 17-minute flight in their private jet and using as much CO2 as me in a year. And why is it my responsibility to take care of the world when these people ruin it?
And you have to even worse, like even worse. We are, in Europe. The situation is completely. We are well taken care of, right? In most of the countries, we have food, we have shelter, we have entertainment. But look at countries like India, China, Pakistan, Guatemala. Yeah. These are the countries who are just getting into this state where they can enjoy a little bit of extra. On average, this is of course, for certain groups this is different, but on average, their welfare is getting better. And right now, if you compare their footprint to the footprint of the American or ours, we want them to cut back on the economic growth, right? Which for them means not getting to the same amount of welfare as we have so quickly. Why would they do it? So this is I usually don't go into the discussions like this because I don't have the knowledge, and I don't have the right arguments. But yeah, something is not right. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and also I am not an expert on these topics, but I know that things upset me, right? But I am the kind of person that wants to hear both sides of the argument, and sometimes it can get a little complicated, for sure.
Yeah, myself, I'm a minimalist guy, so
I'm not, as you can see. But it's changing. I mean, like if you look at my studio here, a lot of these things are just things that I couldn't afford when I was a kid. And now that I have disposable income, it's like, do you have something like that you always wanted and you only recently were able to get it?
I had this kind of goes back to parenting a little bit, and I think one of the really, really good lessons that I will definitely replicate in my in me being a parent is that I could have anything that I wanted, provided that I pay for half of it. So I, was always trying to find a way how to get half the money so I can get the thing that I want. So my parents always gave me half, and if I really wanted it, I was able to somehow collect the money. So there wasn't really something that I lacked. But again, I wasn't too, materialistic.
I used to psychologically manipulate my mother. So when there was a new game that I wanted, I would just cut all the pictures and put them all over the house of the game that I wanted. Or when I wanted to get something like some food or candy, I would just sit at the table and pretend to be eating it to make her feel bad.
So and then your mother gave up, and
she would give up and get
it.
So
games were a big part of your childhood as well.
They were. Like I was a big gamer.
And how much time did you spend in the US and then in Guatemala?
Guatemala, maybe 8 months. After I was 21.
All right. So you didn't grow up there?
No, and this is one of those things that I don't know if you know the comedian. He's Canadian, but his background is from India. Russell Peters.
Oh yeah, I know him.
And he always tells that bit about being Indian in Canada, but then going to Canada and realizing that he's not really Indian.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I grew up in the U.S. Like I couldn't just identify myself as American. Like I just felt that I didn't fit in. But then when I went to Guatemala, I was definitely not Guatemalan.
Okay.
Even the way that I speak Spanish, you could not point to where I'm from. It's not Guatemalan. It's not Central American. It's I don't know what the hell accent I have in Spanish, but
so that's why you decided to go Slovakia.
No, I mean Slovakia wasn't the first place. I thought that with a U.S. education I would be able to be the king of Latin America. That's how stupid I was when I was a young person. I thought that with the U.S. education I'm gonna get hired by the best companies and I went to Mexico first. But actually I had a lot of hardships in Mexico because they're not very accepting of.
And which city in Mexico?
I was living in Oaxaca.
I don't know where that is.
It's in the southern part. It's near Guatemala. It's that whole Maya Riviera.
Okay.
So Quintana Roo and all that area.
Okay. So it's Yucatan?
Around there.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was living in Mexico, and they're just not very accepting of other Latin American people, which to me is surprising because so many Mexicans migrating outside of Mexico. But when you are there, they're like, they're really okay with Argentinians and white Latin Americans, but really there was a lot of discrimination there. So I left Mexico. And then I traveled in Guatemala and Costa Rica working for a language school there. But unfortunately, it is not the safest for native people, right? Especially with my family, that they knew my parents were living in the U.S. So there was even a possibility that my cousins, some of them involved in gangs, could kidnap me just to ask them for money.
There's this famous, and this is actually when we. So I was in Guatemala for 2 days. We went to Mexico, Belize, and then we spent, I think, 2 to 3 weeks in Belize, and then we decided to go to Tikal. Right? It's not Tikal. Tikal is Mexico.
Tikal.
Yeah, Tikal. We went to Tikal, and. There was a city at the border, and immediately when we went to Guatemala, there was these graffitis of it's something 23.
Yeah, Mara, which is a gang. I don't know.
And it was everywhere, right? And yeah, so you could felt that is very much in the culture and in area basically.
Well, the thing, this is a problem that comes from immigration. Because actually a lot of people migrated to the U.S. And teens, became involved in the gangs in L.A. and all these places, and then they got deported, and they brought all of that to Central America. So this is where that comes from. They brought these lessons from the U.S. As they do with many things.
And just speaking about, so that was, I was of course I was worried, but I was also captivated by the beauty of Central America. It's such a beautiful place. But then when we went to Belize, and you see that everybody is carrying a fucking machete, yeah. And there is incidents. Right, so there was a Czech couple. We were living at, and it was like a hotel run. We didn't know, but by a Czech couple, and they had a babysitter that was Guatemalan. And one day she called in sick, and she said, "Hey, I cannot come to work because my father got chopped up by a machete guy over some argument in." And you
That's insane.
And yeah, they carry it for the coconuts, but then I think when they get angry, well, so this is extreme, of course, but I was witnessing it as we were there. So definitely something to keep an eye. And yeah, if they tell you, hey, this is a place where you don't go as a tourist, you listen and you don't go there as a tourist.
And this is something that we were discussing before the podcast, right? That places like Latin America, they can be dangerous, but for tourism, you are almost 99% guaranteed to be safe because they depend on tourism, right? And the last thing they need is tourism declining. So, for example, in Guatemala, what they do is if somebody does something to a tourist, that person is taken care of.
What does it mean?
I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but read between the lines.
Right.
But they deal with that. That's how they deal with those things because tourists are sacred. The only ones that get in trouble are the ones that specifically go to where they warn them that get out of here. Gringo is the word they use for a white tourist. If people still do it, well, it can be a problem.
So back to you manipulating your mother.
Yeah, horrible, right?
By your stuff, but it's it's actually this is. Was it something that was natural to you or interesting to you? Did you Google it at that time? How to do it?
How to manipulate? No, I've just naturally been good at persuasion.
All right. No, this is also a very, I would say, dangerous subject to learn. And there's definitely, there's some. I think there's a whole, not really related to manipulating people, like to get what you want, but just thinking how certain phrases or ways that you present something can influence the behavior, right? And there's a whole field that's called behavioral economics. And I really recommend anyone who is interested in this go to TEDx and look for Dan Ariely.
Dan Ariely. Let me write it down.
He's a scientist that specializes in behavioral economics, and he comes with these crazy, I would say, unreasonable things people do. And I'll just there's a couple of examples, but I think this is really cool because this is also related to health. Is in France they were trying to figure out how they can get people to donate their organs when they die in a car crash.
They don't normally there?
That was in the past, right?
Okay.
So there was, I think, around 10-12% of people actually signed up for the organ donation program, right? Whereas in Belgium and Netherlands, the number was 90%, 90. So ninefold difference. And they were figuring out it cannot be culture because they are not so far. What is the difference, right? And the only difference was in the fact the information was presented, right? So in France, you had to opt in to the organ donation program. So there was a questionnaire when you were filling up your driver's license information. I was like, hey, I want to donate organs. Yes. And you needed to do the check. Whereas in the other countries where the rate was much higher, they had opt out. And there was like, it was pre-checked. I was like, I want to donate the organs. Yes. And just people left it like this. And that was the only difference. So the way, you present it then can have a huge impact on them.
And you can also threaten people, like if you don't sign up, then you're not eligible to get organs.
Yes. But they tried this, actually. They tried it, but it didn't work. The simplest way, just the opting in versus opting out. It's the same if you leave like, hey, I want the newsletter, so you opt in. This has crappy conversion rate. But if you leave it at opt out, this goes to 50-60%. People just, leave it there because it's...
But this is part of a bigger topic because I was also reading that the best CEOs need to be, what is the word? For a company to be really, not a psychopath. Sociopath, yes. Thank you. That they really need to display those behaviors to be really good CEOs. Do you find any of those in you?
Yeah, I'm 100% sociopath. You can ask Petra if she's still in the chat. No, but this is interesting. But some top level CEOs and some top level startup founders really project some sociopathic behaviors, right? Absolute lack of empathy, zero interest in other people, right?
I mean, and you need to have it to some degree because imagine that you have to fire 10,000 people. Which normal person would you would struggle with that decision, right?
Definitely yes. Yeah, definitely yes. Yeah, I still remember when I was letting go my first person. I was explaining it to him that it's not going to work out for 45 minutes, and then the next day he still came to work.
But how did you feel? How did you prepare for that first firing?
I Google it. They always try to figure out how to do it, and then you of course learn and progress. But yeah, it's a tough thing because there has been some investment from both sides. Time, emotion, learning, and then there comes a time when you need to decide after, for me it was usually longer than shorter, that hey, this is probably not going to work out, so you need to
make a decision. But back to my manipulation, I see it I see it less it goes hand in hand with my philosophy in the corporate world and actually in life. I will share with you on LinkedIn. I just sent you a request, but I will share you the article that I wrote about not being afraid of the word no. Because I think that holds back people a lot. Like, I'm not afraid to ask because I find that 90% of the time when I ask for something, they will say yes. Like, especially in the corporate world, if you're able to say why, put together just an intelligent reason as to why you need something, most of the time you're gonna get it. But there's a lot of people that are really afraid, and I'm like, if you don't ask, is automatically a no.
Yeah, exactly. And there is, and I think it also comes from Dan Ariely. It's when you are when you are asking something and you give reason why you need it, then it multiplies the result even more, even if the reason is stupid, right? And there was a really good experiment of people trying to cut the line in supermarkets.
Oh,
And
another thing that triggers me.
two types of people or two types of questions. Hey, can I cut the line, please? And the second one was, hey, can I cut the line because, right? So the first group of people was 30% successful, and people were like, no, you cannot. The second was 80-90% successful, right? Even if you gave really stupid reasons, like, hey, can I cut the line, please, because I need to cut the line. This was still, more successful. So small stuff like this is super important. And you said not being afraid of no, or
Of hearing the word no.
Of hearing the word no. Okay, but on the other side is not being afraid to say no to people.
Yes.
And this is, I think, when you. I think that there will come a time when you'll have to reject guests, and you'll have to say, "Hey, no, sorry, no." Nope.
I wonder if that will really happen. But I think I have a closer example. For example, I have a really close relationship with my team. I have two guys that I manage, my support team, and I have outside of work, like they game and I watch their streams, and they're younger people. They're around 23, right? 24. And sometimes because of that relationship, that friendly relationship, when it comes time to, for example, approve holidays, when it's not prudent, it's hard.
Oh yeah, and but you have to distinguish. This is something that you learn very quickly, that yes, there is certain relationship that you can have with the people, but there's for me and for us, the business, the success of the project comes always first, always. And yes, you have to think about the team as a team, not as a family, because family is unconditional love, basically, and you love your brother, your sister, your parents, no matter what. If someone is hurting the efforts on the team and hurting the success of the company, then you need to, even if he's your best friend, you need to see it. And yes, it's not easy. It's always a really tough thing to do or to talk about, but this is necessary.
How much effort should you put on somebody who's not performing?
As little as possible.
Really?
This is all right. So there is I think the whole magic is about making sure that you are picking the right people, and that the first filters and the recruitment process is good, right? So you can be sure that culture-wise, integrity-wise, you have the right person. The second phase is about, of course, learning the skills, but then most importantly, figuring out whether the person is able to learn. And learning means, yes, making mistakes is absolutely fine. What is not fine is not learning from the mistakes. And if you have a person who is making the same mistakes and doesn't show progress, this is usually a bad sign, and you need to be super conscious and super aware about this. And that's why you need to recognize this as quickly as possible. But it's tough, sometimes, and that was me. I was able to give people 10, 15 chances.
I'm all about my thing. When I think of management, my number one thing is communication, because I think that's the thing that derails things the most, because you are right. People make mistakes. People do the wrong things. People maybe will need to do something they're not supposed to. But as long as you, as somebody in management, know what the situation is and you can explain it to someone else if they ask, then that's much better.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, I think you most often then know that the mistake is on the side of the manager, not communicating properly, not giving clear goals, not briefing the person right. But when you were sure or at least, that within your best capabilities, you're giving the person as much as you possibly can, and you have had some expectations going into the work relationship. This is a skill to learn, definitely, but I think you can get more efficient.
And it's a skill that I had to learn. For example, that the first thing when something goes wrong is I ask, what did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
To question.
Oh, definitely.
Was it the way that I deliver the instructions? Was it the execution that you discuss? And then I look for what they did.
Definitely. So this is I think a very very good point, because usually the mistake is not on the other side. We are all wired differently. The way the brains work, the way we process information is different to you, to me, because of the way we were brought up, the way we, in a way, we are wired in terms of extroversion, introversion, the way we think. Do we think as we speak? Do we think as we write? It's always different, right? So you need to be wary of this. But then when you are fairly certain that you have the right profile and you have some experience with giving out the information, or at least hey, this is the information the person on the other end should be able to process, because you have prior experience and you don't see progress, then there is
and it's such a funny thing that you mentioned that we receive things differently, because actually even when you are genetically the same, I don't know if you've seen the documentary. So there's a documentary where there's 3 identical twins that were adopted when they were young by different families. So they were brought up in different environments, and then they meet in university. They went to the same university, and how they found out is that somebody came up to one of the guys who was like, Josh. Blah. I was like, I'm not Josh. And then they met the other one, the third one, and that was actually, it was what's considered an unethical experiment, because it was planned to split them and see what the environment does to the development of a person. And one of them ended up really bad, and I will send you the name, but it's a really interesting documentary.
These are always really cool experiments, right? Done on twins, looking
but
at
cruel.
What is genetics and what is the environment, right? Because there's always, I think this is the everlasting questions we still don't know. There's a lot of genetic component to everything, but there also the way you are being brought up, definitely, and that's always just when you're trying to initially, when you are at your first job, you're trying to explain something, you're trying to present something, you think completely differently than most of the people, and just having the awareness that this is the case can really set you up on the right trajectory. Otherwise, you're just going to clash to the wall. Nobody's going to understand you, nobody's going to know what you want, and you're just going to be frustrated. But it's, again, up to you to actually make something with it. So yeah.
Somebody asked in the chat, look at what Duke looks at. Do you see it there?
Michal has the best kill-death ratio in hiring and firing people. I don't know what the best means. Please define the best. No, it's. I think I am.
Are you a good judge of character? Do you think?
No,
you're not. I always judge people immediately. Like, I know from the minute I meet somebody if I like him and I don't like him.
Okay.
And I'm a terrible person, because then I make no effort.
Okay. I have been, mistaken so many times, both positively and negatively, that I really try to be. I try to remain really unbiased.
It's hard,
and it really, definitely. And there's stuff like there's, I think, the halo effect, when there is a certain thing that you don't like about the person, and it affects your whole opinion about them. Because, hey, I really hate this watch, for example. That just giving an example. So everything you have here must,
you have to hate it.
Exactly, and this is not right. Or there is an anchoring effect. You meet a person at a very specific point, and this is your first anchor with the person, and that it's really tough from this anchor or from this point to get somewhere else. And sometimes it can be a good anchor. So you meet them at their best, and they usually not like this. Or again, you meet them at the worst. So it's tough to and this is what I learned. But for me, it's actually super simple. It's always about the project that we are doing. It's about the vision that we have, and I can judge whether the person who we have in the company or who I have around me is actually helping us achieve the mission or not. So we have a little bit more, there's objective, and having friends is something completely else, I would say.
Yeah, and as a former language teacher, I know that I came across many people that I didn't like. But what I would do in that situation is find that common point where I could like them. So find the one thing by asking questions that I was interested in or I liked that I could discuss. And that would open the door to force myself, right?
Or ignore them. Maybe.
When you're teaching, you have to.
That's true. That's true. But by the way, there was also a really cool thing that stuck with me, and I think this has been talked over many times. Is that how you your character and how you do stuff is usually the result of the 5 people that you most frequently meet up with and interact with. So the 5 people that are the closest will affect how you feel. So that's why you need to be really careful with who you meet because they are going to influence you a lot.
There's so many of these different things. I also think about the Japanese philosophy of wearing 3 masks. Do you know about this one?
I've heard about this. Yeah, you have the private mask, the public mask, and then there's the
one. There's the mask that you show people.
Yeah.
The mask that you show your friends or family, and then the one that you really are.
Yeah.
So, could you describe your 3 masks?
Yeah, I try to keep it, for the simplicity's sake, I try to keep it the same.
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that I'm much different because it would be a lot of effort actually to maintain it. And this is, when you say something and then you say something else to your friends or your family, it can backfire. So I learned, I think, throughout the years that it's actually super nice not to lie, and it's super nice to just be yourself. And
you have to always just walk around the truth.
But if I was to say, I'm just thinking whether there is something that I'm really doing differently, or
for example, I believe I am an introverted person.
Yeah, me too, 100%.
But my job requires me to be extroverted.
Okay.
And that also leads me to be extremely exhausted. I need sometimes a break from people. Does that happen to you?
Yes, of course, every day. No, this is I think there is really cool personality tests, right? And I really like because it all gives you the 4 letters. I think it's called Myers-Briggs personality test. So I think if people Google it.
Yeah, I took it. I'm one of the strange ones, one of the rare ones.
And you can then actually look at your personality score, and you can look at how well you'll do, for example, in business and in family and stuff like this. And I like this, and there's many others. But I'm also introverted at that scale. And I was always checking, hey, what is introverted? What is extroverted? And I think the best definition is what gives you energy, right? Is it being with and around people? Or is it being alone or with the closest people, right? And I think for me, it's, I would just close myself, lock the door, and I would just read.
I love being quiet.
Yeah, me too.
Just sitting and not talking to anybody is.
Yeah, exactly. There's also my way of recharging.
For sure. I have some topics that I wanted to cover with you. As I mentioned to you, you started, I think, with a very good intention of changing like health and trying to deal with an issue, which was the abuse of prescriptions, right? Google started in a similar way, and one of their motto was
don't be evil.
yes. So how do you avoid going in that direction as you get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger? Because I'm sure it's in your mind.
Of course, I think about this every day, and it's a very right now. And we talked about this a lot with Petra and with Peter. Is right now the company is getting bigger, which means you are hiring more people, which means you need to train people, and you need to be super picky about who you let on board, because these people will not only be the first employees, but they will also be the cultural co-founders. They will what you teach them, they should then teach to people that they will be working with. And if you don't have the basics right, so if you don't focus on integrity, if you don't focus on ownership, if you don't focus on being transparent, radically transparent, it can get out of hand very quickly. So I think, and this is something that I was laughing at when I was at school. Like, values, mission, culture, bunch of bullshit. You don't need it at all. But then when you are building your company and you figure out that, hey, you are working with people, you're trying to hire and fire people, you figure out that usually there is a problem, or there is a misfit on the values that you have as a company. So that's why, I don't think there is like a universal remedy for this, but I think getting the culture within the company right, and just making sure that you have 100% cultural fit, will help you going forward.
I completely agree with you, because I've worked, for example, retailer, and Starbucks, for example, has a really strong culture, which when I work in big corporations, this is where they fail the most sometimes, because I find that quite often it is just something that's there. Like, these are our principles, these are our values. And every year when you have to do your performance review, you mentioned how you were fitting those values. But they don't spend as much time as, for example, I go back to Starbucks, and really the culture, knowing the principles, behaving to those principles is what keeps those people more engaged than somebody that's working at a big corporation. So I fully agree that it's something you need to have.
And some of the companies tried to live the values, but they failed. One of them was, I think, Uber, and many others, which showed that there is a very toxic environment, very competitive, which of course then translated into the company not performing too well, because these behaviors were accepted. Lying was accepted, bribing was accepted. This translated into other people picking up the same behaviors in other countries, recruiting similar people, and this just gives rise to just really not good culture, and it's then tough to turn it around.
What is the most important value that you bring to the company, or that you established early on, that really has helped you be successful or grow?
Yeah, this is we talked about this with Dusan. Is the Madmonq. It's the Madmonq magic, basically. It's just going. I can then show you the cultural values that we have and praise, but Madmonq magic is one of them, and it's just going one step further, making sure that what you are creating is actually is the best that you can do, and even better with the help of other people, right? And not being lazy with your work, but really trying to make the best work that you can possibly on the and this is something that me myself, I'm now it's better, but I was perfectionist. I still am.
I'm not.
This was something that I just couldn't stand, right? Because I knew that if this is not done in this way, if the copy is not to the point, if the ad is, then it's not going to perform so well. And I think when you are creating something new, and you can fail on the small things, right? So if you don't send that one email to the customer that they are going to like, they will not develop the relationship. They will not refer to a friend. They will not buy again. So it's about the little things. It's about really figuring out how can we make this better. And I think this is the value that I'm trying to put into the company and teach everyone, because this is ultimately what I feel Madmonq is going to succeed at or fail at.
who came up with the packaging?
Initially, it was me and my wife.
And who was responsible for the controller that comes in?
Yeah, that was me and my wife.
God, I laughed for maybe 30 minutes because it's for your brother to play with.
Oh, you mean okay?
Oh, not the logo, but
okay,
I mean,
okay, yeah. So the packaging is ongoing process, and we are, actually, so we send Madmonq in a very specific box, which is cut out, and there is like there's a space to.
There's a watch. I got a watch and the controller.
And there is and there is like a cutout, and the Madmonq usually comes in very nicely. But when you cut out the space for the Madmonq or Champion, there is like a waste, and this is, I think, a very nice example of the Madmonq magic. Usually, most companies would, hey, it's waste, you throw it away. But you said, hey, if we are printing on the whole thing, and we can put some message here or a joke or something, then we should do it. Right, and then you can keep it. If you have the package, have you opened it completely?
Oh, I gave it away to a listener.
All right,
So
because if you open it completely, there is Easter eggs everywhere.
Yeah, I was checking them all, and
Okay.
but I sent it away
But
to
if
my
you
listener.
completely disintegrated, look under the covers.
Really?
There's Easter eggs everywhere.
Then it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you ever follow the company that does Cards Against Humanity.
Oh yeah.
They are. I get a really similar vibe from you guys, and they have this box called the Big Black Box, and actually there's a hidden card. If you rip like part of the box, and there's a hidden card there, so this is what I'm thinking about with that.
And we have another card which I really like is, so we had a shaver, and then we had a card that where we write, if you put it into a freezer for 24 hours, it's going to reveal a secret map to and then we put in the brackets maybe.
And does it work?
And
I will have to.
check. But there's another one that we have like a credit card with a thing that it seems that you can scratch it off, but you can't.
Oh, that's
People are sending, hey, I probably scratched too hard and stuff like that. So we're having a lot of fun with that. Yeah.
Did you? I was talking to Dushan about this, but are you thinking of making like some special edition, not different flavors, but like I would like to have like a Ducloak edition with his face and like a special different color.
Yeah, I think we may do it. Dushan, we'll discuss it right now. What time is it? Where's the time? Oh, okay. So we'll be going to Prague. So we'll discuss it.
What time are you supposed to leave?
I don't know. Dushan, you tell me. But it's going to take 3 to 4 hours, I think, to get to Prague. So I would like to get to the company to say hi to some new faces, and I think we still have like 10-15 minutes.
Yes, so we will finish soon. It's actually, the time flew by.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not surprised that you took 3 hours yesterday.
It's well, if you have a good company, then it's easy to talk.
But actually, next time we'll do it in Prague. At your.
All right.
We'll do the first something po Anglicky
From Prague.
from Prague.
All right. You should come to the party.
I'm coming.
Perfect.
Yes. So somebody invited me, so I will definitely come.
All right. Awesome. So that'll be. I'm ready in 15 minutes at Miguel's place, but it's up to you guys.
Yeah.
All right,
You can
Michal,
come.
Be ready.
You can come in 15 minutes. What can I expect at the party?
There is going to be a lot of food and a lot of drinks and some really cool people. So I really hope to have nice atmosphere where we can probably, because this is a different type of party. Usually what we did is we threw a smaller party for partners and influencers. This one is going to be different because we invited subscribers.
Yeah, the golden ticket.
The golden ticket was one, but last year we promised to everyone who is going to stay with us for 12 months that will be invited to the party. So this will be a bigger party than we usually do and we usually throw, but we will still try to make it, with this Madmonq twist, Madmonq magic.
Since we have such a short amount of time left, let me just quickly check my notes.
Yeah, and Barman challenge for partners. That's right, Dushan.
You are a fan of God of War.
Mm, mm. So there's a couple of games that I really like. Probably my favorite game of all times is Fallout 2, and then Fallout 4, New Vegas, and then God of War.
New Vegas is my favorite from the Fallout series.
But the the God of War is a funny story because I never finished it.
What?
Yeah, but I always this is the thing, when I get home, I turn on the PlayStation, I play it, and then I see someone else playing it, for example, or I watch Twitch, or I always so I have been playing it, I would say, for 3 years. I never finished it, but I'm still super excited to play it. So I am, extending the pleasure from the game by just.
And that's not a bad thing. I think that's the best case scenario.
Oh yes. So, and it comes, down to free time and priorities. But I am still super, and I have the same thing with Fallout 4. I never finished it, but I'm always super excited to go home and play it one day, maybe.
We need to see you and Duklok playing the new God of War.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out on the 11th. No, on the 9th. Of November.
Mm-hmm. So we still have 1 month.
Yeah, so make it a Madmonq thing. That would be. I would watch that.
I need a PlayStation 5.
You don't have one?
No, I have PlayStation 4.
How is that possible that you don't have one? Dushan, talk to Sony so we can make it happen. One of the last business things I wanted to ask you is, what was your elevator pitch to the investors that when you raised?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 13 million Czech koruna.
Mm-hmm.
What was the elevator pitch?
So at that time there was no pitch because these were all angels that were super close to us, and they just wanted to help us build the vision that we had. But right now for the second round, it was, hey, we are a community-led startup that focuses on creating really cool and healthy products for the gaming community. So that was the two-liner or three-liner.
So you didn't have such a difficult time with that?
No, it was, it's I would say it's one of the toughest things to raise money. But every iteration, I think it really depends if this is interested to the audience or not, but this is a great way to really get clarity on what you're actually doing, because right now, hey, we are selling these great supplements for gamers, but the whole vision, the whole messaging, the whole business model, how to approach the market, it always comes with the discussions with the investors. They help you make sure that you are clear, that you're not missing anything, that they show you your blind spots, you need to address them, and then you sharpen it as you go.
I heard from a little birdie that you make a mean carbonara.
I like Italian cuisine, so I spent 1 year there, so I can make good spaghetti, definitely.
And the last question I'm gonna ask you today before I release you, it came from Instagram, is who was your childhood celebrity crush?
We actually discussed this last week, and I had issues finding out because I actually, but there's a couple, right? So definitely Jessica Alba, Megan Fox, but then also Ryan Reynolds, and I would say even Hugh Jackman and Dwayne Johnson. So that would
people have that you can get the pass. You know that within a couple that you can have a pass with a woman, with a man. And most people pick those names.
Oh, really?
And Johnny Depp is also on the list.
So who was yours?
I don't know.
The reason why I knew was because we really discussed it last week. So
I would need to think about it. I will tell you at the party.
All right.
Because I have no idea.
No, it was really tough for me as well. I was like, and for everyone it was super simple, but for me, well, yeah, it was these guys, and that's, I think that's it. But Dwayne Johnson, actually,
that's The Rock.
Yeah, The Rock. I was I am so in terms of for example TV shows, I am a big fan of Star Trek, like the biggest fan of Star Trek. And if you this is really cool. This was the premiere. The Rock premiered in Star Trek. That was his first role.
Really, I know him as Rocky Maivia in WWF.
Yes, but his first role was in Star Trek, and it's super fun. So I really, I think he's fighting the half Borg 7 of 9, and it's the best. It's the best.
I need to check it out. I had no idea.
I was completely surprised because I didn't know it, and then I'm watching Star Trek, and there's Dwayne, you know, with hair, with his signature brow look, just in Star Trek, like what the fuck. So yeah, we need to watch it when we close the stream, because this was super nice.
Very good. I want to thank you so much for coming all the way from Prague and being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was really a pleasure. I know we made it happen. I want to thank, obviously, Petya and Duklok as well for helping with the organization. Before we go, could you leave the audience with a message, please? Final message. Anything you want to do, anything you want to plug.
And this is, I need to prepare for this kind of, for these kind of questions a little bit more. Yeah. I would say learn to say no to stuff. That would be my message.
There's people that follow the yes, say yes to everything.
Well, I think there's a limit. I think initially and in the beginning of the career, you should learn to say yes to everything. But as the opportunities, as there is more and more opportunities around you, you should definitely learn to say no, and it's going to make you happy.
Very cool. Thank you so much for coming again to Something
My pleasure.
Anglicky.
Thank you very much.
Guys, it's been a pleasure having you as well, and see you at